Before a butterfly's beauty can soar in the air, it first must crawl. Before a swan can dance on rippled waters, it first must waddle. Before an empire can make its mark in history, it must first lay its foundations. Before great men can take the world stage, they must take their first steps. Everything must have a beginning and an end. And for man, we start as defenseless infants and grow into capable adults. In theory. But there is a concerning lack of respect and underestimation of children to a point where it dehumanizes the youth. So much so, it seems that most children are treated like animals, in a negative and positive sense. It is understandable, though, with how a child can seemingly be so stupid and annoying at times. It's easy to look down on them. Come On gently reminds us that with children, there's more than meets the eye with one of the characters, Jesse. Jesse helps subvert expectations while also questioning what we've already assumed and concluded. As we follow along with Jesse and Johnny, the masquerade the society placed upon the common child melts away, revealing not an animal, but a human being. The humanization of children simply begins with some questions. In Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements, he talks about the early social development of a child. Don Miguel notes that it's within these early stages is where a person becomes domesticated. Domesticated in the sense that a person is conditioned to behave and act accordingly to the society around them. There are its upsides to the domestication of man, but of course there are also negative effects that comes with it, specifically when it comes to suppression of emotions. Emotions are natural. To be human is to be emotional. With man's domestication, emotions are taught to be weakness, inappropriate. To show emotion is frowned upon by your peers. So with this conditioning of thinking at such a young age, we as a people choose to suppress our emotions and lock ourselves into molds that society deems to be acceptable. Come On's core message is aimed at questioning us as to why we don't show emotion as often as we should be. It aims to break the societal chains so that you can not only show emotion, but also be yourself. The way the movie goes about it is, ironically, through Jesse. But that topic requires an entirely different video for itself. We gotta focus on the humanization of children in this video. The reason why I brought up Don Miguel and his point of man's domestication, during all this process, there is a high likelihood that a child will be dehumanized. Intentional or not, the child will lose most of their identity before even getting a chance to choose one. All because since the child is not as experienced as us, that means that they're stupid and should be controlled like dogs. An extreme response to a problem. So in Come On's quest to liberate you from societal chains, it also humanizes kids by allowing them to speak for themselves and show us that just because they're young, it doesn't mean that they're any lesser than an adult. There are two ways the film goes about humanizing children: their interviews and Jesse. Let's first talk about the interviews. Johnny is working on a project where he goes around different places to interview children, all varying in ethnicity, age, and background. So in short segments throughout the entire movie, kids are asked questions and they answer. Now, a balance has to be found in order for this entire scenario to be well received. A balance in the questions and the responses. If both are too intellectual, then it will be dismissed as unrealistic and artsy. If both are too simple, then the stigma of children being simple, stupid creatures will only be reinforced. The questions asked in the film are worded in such a way that either a simple or complex answer will satisfy the question. Questions that anyone could easily answer. More importantly, the questions allows the kids to define themselves, giving them the chance to show that they're sentient beings. And the answers that were given by the children were unexpected. It was thoughtful, detailed, intelligent, grounded. The answers themselves were so rich that one can't help but to feel impressed by such a response. One of the answers given was a girl who believes that the world isn't going to end, but rather it will be less clean. Such mature responses from people that most wouldn't expect simply on the simple fact that they're young. The interviews definitely paints children's identity in a positive way, but the biggest case for the humanization of children hands down goes to Jesse, a strange, inquisitive boy. Jesse is the nephew of Johnny. The entire plot revolves around Johnny doing his best to take care of Jesse, while his mother tries to wrangle in her manic husband. It's within this journey of uncle and nephew that we get to see Jesse's humanity shine. Granted, Jesse is not some boy genius or a prodigy of any kind, but the way he asks questions, the manner in which he carries himself, the creatively grounded comprehension he has of the world around him really weakens the stereotypes unjustly pinned on kids. Over and over, Jesse would ask questions about Johnny's life that Johnny would either answer reluctantly, jokingly brush it off, or give Jesse a bullshit response, which Jesse knew it was just that. Bullshit. The questions Jesse asked weren't, "Where do babies come from?" or "What's sex?" but instead questions like, "Why don't you and my mom act like siblings anymore? Have you ever fallen in love with someone? Did you try to tell my mom to leave my dad?" In order for Jesse to ask these types of questions, he must have been aware of what has been going around him for all these years. Jesse is not some mindless dog, but a person who sees and hears all. He might not understand what's going on for being so young, but he's perfectly capable of picking up that something is wrong somewhere in some way. Don Miguel describes, during the process of domestication, a child rebelling against a parent's commands as a means for the child to fight for their individuality and their independence, even if they don't know what they do might be wrong. We see this exact description play out with Jesse. For Jesse has a routine that he wants to follow, and Johnny obliges him. This routine gives Jesse his sense of security and independence. But when Jesse crosses the line, like hiding in the convenience store from Johnny and gets shit for it, he does not understand why Johnny is yelling at him, since to Jesse, he was just playing a little game. Johnny and Jesse continue to have these little conflicts for control throughout their time together, which leads to Jesse informing Johnny that he doesn't need him. Johnny tries to assure him that he does, but Jesse won't hear it. That is until later on, Jesse does admit that he doesn't need Johnny's aid to care for him. In this aspect, the film does a phenomenal job balancing Jesse's character, giving Jesse an individualistic personality, but also showing that he needs Johnny's help to guide him through the things that confuse and frighten him, and most importantly, give Jesse a sense of security when the ground under his feet trembles with uncertainty. So throughout all this, Johnny, instead of depriving Jesse of his independence and individuality, helps him figure his way through the rough patches. Really, that's another small thing that wraps all this up nicely, which is how the adults treat the kids. There is such a great feeling of gentleness and compassion in how they talk with them. With Jesse, Johnny and his friends listened to what he had to yap about instead of silencing him. If there were moments where Johnny yelled at Jesse in an attempt to correct him, it would be later met with an apology. Respect is given to the kids in a way that respect is demanded when dealing with a human being. Perhaps I'm basing this essay too heavily on my own experiences, or perhaps there will be those who will see what I see. Still, it doesn't hurt to be reminded that children are very much human, just like any other adult. Their inexperience does not disqualify them from being treated anything short from human. Come On easily humanizes children by simply giving them a voice to express what they're feeling and what they see around them. I will now leave you with the sweet book that was featured in the movie to end this video off well. To visit planet Earth, you'll have been born as a human child. At first, you'll have to learn how to use your new body, to use your arms and legs, to put yourself upright. You will learn to walk and run, to use your hands, to make sounds, to form words. Slowly, you will learn to take care of yourself. Here it is still and peaceful, but there, the colors, sensations, and sounds will wash over you constantly. You will see so many living things, plants, and animals beyond imagining. Here, it is always the same. But there, everything is in motion. Everything is always changing. You will be plunged into Earth's river of time. There will be so much for you to learn, and so much for you to feel. Pleasure and fear, joy and disappointment, sadness and wonder. In your confusion and delight, you will forget where you came from. You will grow up, travel, and work. Perhaps you will have children, even grandchildren of your own. Over the years, you'll try to make sense of that happy, sad, full, empty, always shifting life you are in. And when it times to come to return to your star, it may be hard to say goodbye to that strangely beautiful world.